Assalamu alaikum students, how are you all? I hope you all are doing good. Students, we are going to continue with the same unit, which is unit 15. In the last week we studied about fractions. Today we are going to study how to compare simple fractions. Students, before we start the lesson for today, let's do a short recap of what we had done last week. Let's see what's a fraction. A fraction is the part of a whole. What is a numerator? Numerator tells us how many parts we have, and it is the number at the top of the fraction. What is a denominator? A denominator tells us how many equal parts the whole is divided into, or the total number of equal parts. A denominator is a number at the bottom of a fraction. Okay students, I hope you all are ready. Let's start. On this slide, we are going to learn how to compare the two fractions. Now let's look at the first circle. Let's count how many equal parts the circle is divided into. Start counting with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's right. The first circle is divided into 5 equal parts. Let's go to the next circle. Start counting. How many equal parts is the circle divided into? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's right. The second circle is also divided into 5 equal parts. Now students, if you look at both the circles, are they same? Well, I don't think they're same. What is the difference? Now, the first circle is shaded into 2 equal parts, and the second circle is shaded into 3 equal parts. So the fraction in the first circle is 2/5, and in the second circle the fraction will be 3/5. Now when we compare the two fractions, we have to follow a few steps. Well, step 1, you check the denominators. Now in both the fractions, the denominator is 5, which is same. Now when we have the same denominators, we follow step 2. That is, you check the numerators. Now in the first fraction, the numerator is 2, and in the second fraction, the numerator is 3. So which numerator is greater? Well, 3 is greater than 2. So what can you say about the two fractions? Which fraction is greater and which fraction is smaller? 2/5 is smaller than 3/5. Or you can also say that 3/5 is greater than 2/5. Okay students, let's look at the second example. In this example also we have to compare the two fractions. Let's look at the first rectangle. How many equal parts are there in the first rectangle? Well, there are 8 equal parts. How many equal parts are there in the second rectangle? There are also 8 equal parts in the second rectangle. Now let's see how many parts are shaded in the first rectangle. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's right. The first rectangle has 7 shaded parts. Let's go to the second rectangle. How many parts are shaded? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 shaded parts in the second rectangle. So the fraction for the first rectangle will be 7/8, and the fraction for the second rectangle will be 5/8. Now when we have to compare the two fractions, we saw that we have to follow a few steps. Let's recollect. What is the first step? Yes, we need to check the denominators. Now, in the two fractions, the denominator is 8, which is same. So we follow the next step. When we have the same denominators, we look at the numerators. Now, in the first fraction, the numerator is, that's right, 7. And in the second fraction, the numerator is 5. So which numerator is greater? Right, students, 7 is greater than 5. So which fraction will be greater? 7/8 is greater than 5/8. Students, on this slide you can see that we have a fraction wall. Okay, we have one whole which can be divided into equal parts in many ways. Now when we started with this unit, we saw what are unit fractions. Unit fraction is a fraction where we have 1 as a numerator. Now if you look at this fraction wall, you can see that in all the fractions we have 1 as the numerator. Now we have one whole which is divided into 2 equal parts, and the fraction is half, which is 1/2. Next, we have it which is divided into 3 equal parts. We have 1/3. If you go down, you see it is divided into 4 equal parts, which is 1/4. Then we have into 5 equal parts, 1/5. Then we have into 6 equal parts, 1/6. 7 equal parts, 1/7. 8 equal parts, 1/8. 9 equal parts, 1/9. 10 equal parts, 1/10, 11 equal parts, 1/11, and 12 equal parts, 1/12. Now, if you compare 1/4 and 1/5, 1/4 is greater than 1/5. When we compare 1/7 with 1/10, 1/7 is greater than 1/10. We'll study about unit fractions in the next slide. Now, students, on this slide, we are going to compare the unit fractions. Now, we saw what is a unit fraction. Let's repeat once. A unit fraction is a fraction which has a numerator of 1. 1 will be a numerator in a unit fraction. Now let's compare each set of fractions and draw a ring around the smallest fractions. Now students, we saw on the last slide when the denominators are same, you check the numerators. Now, if you look at these fractions, the numerators are 1, which means it is a unit fraction. Now, when the denominators are different, but the numerator is 1, in this case, smaller the denominator, greater will be the fraction. I repeat again, smaller the denominator, greater will be the fraction, and greater the denominator, smaller is the fraction. I repeat, greater the denominator, smaller is the fraction. Now, on this slide, we need to circle the smallest fraction. So let's check the denominator. In the first fraction, 1/4, the denominator is 4. In the second fraction, 1/2, the denominator is 2. In the third fraction, 1/8, the denominator is 8. Now we have to circle the smallest fraction. Now let's repeat. Greater the denominator, smaller is the fraction. So in these 3 fractions, which denominator is the greatest? Yes, 8 is the greatest. So the fraction which is smaller will be 1/8. Students, let's look at the next example. Here we also have to compare each set of fraction and draw a ring around the largest fraction. Now we have three fractions here, 3/8, 7/8 and 5/8. Now we saw that when we have to compare the fractions, the first step is you check the denominator. Now, if you see the three fractions, the denominator is 8, which is same. Now, when the denominators are same, we check the numerators. Now, in the first fraction, the numerator is 3. In the second fraction, the numerator is 7. And in the third fraction, the numerator is 5. Now, when we have to compare the fractions, the larger the numerator, the larger is the fraction. So, from the three fractions, which numerator is larger? That's right, 7 is the largest. So, the fraction 7/8 is the largest fraction out of the three.